What is up, lords and ladies? I figured I'd throw out a review here. I haven't really seen one yet for CT's Flatglass W900, or Colton Thompson if you prefer. So I'd already put one together, but I figure I'll do kind of like a brief walkthrough of the feature set. There's not oodles yet, um, but it sounds like he's going to be continually pushing updates and adding more content as he goes. So bear that in mind. This is a $70, 70 US dollar mod. So it's not particularly cheap. It's not as expensive as the Roland 389, but it's definitely up there. So to start, you've got two cab options. There's no day cab. So you've got a flat top and an Aerodyne. I go back and forth. The Aerodyne looks pretty old school. Maybe we'll go with that for now. Frame options, you've got two frames, same length. One is long, one is low. I'm gonna throw this out there right now. That low is very low, um, to the point where anything probably short of his own wheels and tires will clip through the fender. So like bear that in mind. I'm not super huge on his wheels. I'm still kind of a sucker for Smarties wheels, so I tend to leave the regular frame, which is already lowered compared to a regular W900. Like W900s have way more clearance between the tires and the fenders. They're tall trucks. Engine choices. I've already defed in a couple of Z-Mods engines, but you've got kind of the gamut. I don't know who his engines are done by. I want to say with these logos, they're probably Creech. They don't have any like Rabbinicus logos or anything like that on them. So you got some cats, some older cats, some two-stroke Detroits, some oddball options for ISX, Packars, which wouldn't be in this truck. Kenworth W900s, at least the L model, do not allow you to put a Packard motor in. It's Cummins or bust nowadays. Um, Again, kind of going through the gamut of some like oddball choices like M11s and stuff. ISXs, you get straight pipe versions. Going all the way up to these are some X15s. I think these are like some general. These engines seem to show up in a lot of different mods, and I'm not too sure. They sound fine. I'm not too sure whose they are. Obviously, Z mods X15s in here. This was originally a DEF truck, but we're not going to force you guys to suffer through that. All the way up to the ISXs, more straight pipes, and then just the X15s again, Z mods performance ones. So I've got a signature 600 in here. And I think we're going to leave it at that because it sounds pretty nice. Transmission options aren't super plentiful. They're just the default game options. So, um, 325 on 18 and 18 speed for me is a little too tall, like for like general cargo freight. And 355 is just a touch too slow. But I'd rather be a touch too slow than like a fair bit too tall, if that makes any sense. So I'm running a 13 in this bad boy. A single interior option. Um, Paint schemes run the gamut, right? You've got, all these sorts of different like two tones, different stripes, the one that I've got set up, right? Frame, so you can paint the frame a different color, frame and tanks, Ozark, whatever that is. It's kind of weird. The ever popular Seminole paint, Yosemite, and then just your regular colors. So we'll just stick with the one I got there because I'm a fan. On the front end, so bear in mind you notice that the bumper changed when I lowered the frame. There are two bumper options for the lowered frame, and I mean a decent number of options for the raised frame. Um, there's not oodles of stuff going on here. I gotta go back and find his damn lights. He's got some watermelon lights, and I've got a lot of mods in here, as you can probably tell. I've got this is my. Oh, he does have some of these. Interesting. So you can get some lollipop lights. I'm a bullet light fan, so I'm just scrolling through till I find his bullet lights. His stuff is pretty easy to differentiate because he just has the name rather than a you know rather than a I don't know how to put it, a like picture of a light. There they are. Watermelon lights. There we are. Put those in there. So also on the bumper, like you can put a license plate, a couple different options. Mud flaps, just one option. Headlights are just the factory visors. So you've got two options for grills, factory polished and polished. They're not enormously different. The factory's looks like more squares. I mean, hell, what am I saying? Let's get in here and look. Yeah, the factory's more like rectangles, and the regular polished is straight round. Oh, we might leave that. That's kind of neat. I'll pan it this way a bit. Grill bars, you've got 13, 3, and 7. I'm a fan of 7 because I'm, boring. Polished surround, painted surround, and then polished and painted. I hate painted surrounds on trucks, so I'm not going to do it. So there are two different hood options. You've got the standard, which is a W900 current gen headlight setup, and you've got W900A, which gives you the double round headlights. There's some slight tweaking going on here. I like just the hood line seems to be slightly different. The stripes are slightly different. Not entirely sure what the deal is. Almost looks like it's slightly wider or fits differently or is more rounded. So we'll do the A model hood for fun. You get your fender bracket lights, square and round. It's not, again, not oodles of options. Engine colors, you've basically got Detroit, Packard, Cummins, or Cat. Rims, again, he's got some rims. His 24.5s. He said, I'm not super huge on the tires. They're a little too glossy for me. Again, I'm a pretty big sucker for Smarties rims. I think they just kind of fit pretty much everything really well, and they are pretty pretty on point. I know Smarty personally. He's a real good guy and knows quite a bit about trucks. Has lots of access to these trucks, so he's spent a lot of time modeling those particular components. Tires, I've got low pro 24 or 22s on here, just again to try to clear the fender because this thing sits so low. So short panels, again, you've got individual nodes here, some small nodes for different watermelon lights. Again, I haven't really scrolled through to see if he has other lights. A lot of these other lights don't line up right with his truck. He's kind of sort of made it so that you're pretty much obligated to use his stuff. There's a few light options that will probably fit, but again, by and large, it looks like he doesn't really have anything else. I thought I saw something in here. Never mind, I lied. So your watermelons, you got red and amber are your options. Breathers, you've got polished with straps, polished with no straps, and then painted is the same options. Polish looks a little more old school to me, so that's what I'm doing. Steps, you've got polished paint with the DPF box, which we're not going to need, or you've got just the regular steps, which switch out your stack slightly, but it's nothing too crazy. Here you could put a logo on. I don't have any. So your panels, right? We've got short panels, medium panels, polished, which is just down here, and a painted box. So if we go with medium panels here, all he adds is the ability to put penny lights in them, right? So it's one option. If you switch to short panels, you get hidden penny lights underneath, which I'm a bigger fan of. I actually really like hidden lights, both on real trucks and virtual trucks. A visor, same thing. He doesn't have a boatload of options, some painted ones, right? Nothing too crazy. I like the small bow tie. Lights, same thing, right? Very few options. He's got amber bullets. He's probably got a clear version of these bullet lights. I'm not getting into that because there's, a lot. Horns, same thing. He's got two horn options. The horns work either way. I don't really, I'm not a fan of horns on trucks. Slots again for the lights. I'm not going to bother with it. Chrome or painted whale tails, which to me are, whale tails in general I find are obnoxious. So stacks, same thing. We don't have a boatload of options here. I'm a miter cut guy, so we're gonna stick her with miter cut. So we can get some polished tank skirts on there, and then tanks, polished tanks. One thing he does have that's kind of nice is he's got a def tank with a nice polished surround on it, and you can do def tanks to the front or def tanks to the rear, painted stainless, but also painted with a polished def tank cover, which is pretty nice. Again, on painted tanks, we don't need a def tank on this thing. We got a Cummins, signature in here. Moving farther back, again, quarter fender options, half fenders, double humps, longer double humps, even longer ones, and that's literally it. I like the Hodge builds. I'm a quarter fender guy. So here, airlines. Again, there's not boatloads of awesome or options here. Custom with pogo. There's no pogo here, but it's got a box. I can slap a trailer on. This is also his trailer, his Merit bull rack. So we'll pull that around and take a look. Again, with this, I'm a fan of painted within inserted or an insert for airlines. Slots again for lights. I used his lights. You can throw any. I think you can throw anything on there, but most of them look. I lied. You can just put those in there. Rims, rear rims again. Same options as before. Rear bumper, you got either no mud flaps for full surround fenders or the this guy. Like there really isn't, you know, a whole lot of options here. So that's kind of the thing to bear in mind with this truck is there aren't a boatload of options available for it yet, right? They're coming. Colton has said a few times that he wants to update and upgrade the truck as he goes. Inside, you've got a couple of different wheel options. Apparently, this custom one, I don't know if this is always purple or if it went off of the one, thin purple paint stripe or pinstripe I have. We've got a wood version, a 20-inch retro, a factory smart wheel, and then a main body painted wheel. I find this wheel I like 20-inch wheels. I had one in my last real truck. It's very nice. Dashboard, or that's a grill, sorry, I lied. So we've got wood grain custom, which apparently is just black, and then painted, which is on this truck, it's painted black, so, black or black. Obviously painted would probably give you the main body paint. Stereo, if you take that out, you are staring into texture hell, so I would probably leave that in there. A couple different options for CBs, and they're all strikers, your kind of dominant colors plus purple, because I'm really a fan of this. A lot of people are starting to realize purple's a really popular color for truck stuff, so modders are starting to add purple a lot. A single GPS option, so shifter options. One nice thing is he's differentiated and not like forced a shifter color to kind of, it's weird for me if I'm driving a truck that all it has is a 13-speed red knob and I put an 18 in it. Like, you would not put a 13-speed shift like splitter. It would make it difficult, if not impossible, to shift it as an 18-speed. So then he's got a custom ball version. Same thing with an 18-speed custom ball version. And then he's got a generic one that is just a chrome splitter switch. So if you, wanted it to just be chrome versus red, I guess, for example, and wanted to tell yourself that it's okay because I have, a chrome splitter, I can have it whatever transmission I want. Carpeting, he's got painted floors, which, again, it's black, so it kind of looks like the empty abyss. I'm not sure how I feel about his wood. I think it's a little too glossy. Looks like there's a little too much texturing going on here, which, probably isn't that bad. When you look at the bunk, it's not as bad, but I'm just sticking with the carpet. Seats, same thing. I can remove the seats, and that's literally it. No accessory options in this thing, no bunk options or anything yet. That's pretty much it. That's all she wrote. So let's spend the buckaroos on this thing, and we'll stick her out on the highway and see what we think. So this is it, right? Again, it's a pretty good looking truck, right? I'm actually, that wheelbase is kind of right where I like the look of wheelbases on trucks. So like, Colton hasn't put a lot of options on the truck, but what he has put is very aesthetically pleasing. It's kind of like that. I guess it's beneficial for me because it's what I would want to choose. So it's, maybe I have it easy because this is kind of how I would like the wheelbase and everything to be on this truck, right? Again, your watermelons, he's gone with, I don't think you can see the internal watermelons, like they're light masked, which is probably good. Some people prefer the glow of it, like the Joel from the creator of the Roland 389. He prefers the glow that you get from those particular models. A couple of other guys have had it where the lenses are clear and you can see the LEDs inside, but it's all preference. So let's fire it up and see how she sounds. So we're running on 145 still, so there's no driveline torque. But I've got too many mods on this profile that are not compatible with 146 that I'm not going to bother switching around just yet. So again, as I said before, like if I crank the wheel hard to the right, like if I free cam it, we're just clearing that fender, you know what I mean? But if I dump it, oh boy, we're in problems now. So it's definitely, you know, if you wanted to lower it, it's definitely to sit in the truck stop at, you know, parked and look cool. Because you get pretty much that before you start clipping through the fender. So, but again, this ride height is already significantly lower. Like, I'd almost argue that the raised height is more akin or more accurate to the height of a W9, at least on the front. So it's, you know, I think it's pretty good where it is. So let's see if we got a job here. I'm currently at the Delta Yard, which is a Frankenstyle Customs mod. Surprise, surprise, we have cattle here. I don't want anything too long because we're not going crazy here. But probably all I have are long drives because, surprise, surprise, that's all I got. All right, well, we're going to take the load that pays the most, which is a whole $240 per mile because I have a realistic economy mod on here. So we'll slap that on there. We'll go over and grab the trailer and see what's what. So you'll also have to forgive me. I'm not using TrackIR. I use an app called View Tracker currently. Just for a while, TrackIR was exceptionally difficult to find. Like they were out of stock on their website, and we're having a really hard time getting inventory. So it's a webcam-based setup, so it follows my face, which is pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie. It took a lot of parameter changing to get it to more or less do what TrackIR does. But like if I twitch my nose, you can see it twitch in the screen. So if my nose is itchy, or if I take a drink of water, or anything like that, the camera's prone to going a little crazy, which, again, is, I guess, a small price to pay for an app for a webcam that I already have, at least until I decide to get money for TrackIR and, go that route. I'll also add that, I do a lot of this stuff in third person. I'm a truck driver in real life, and I see this stuff in first person all the time. So I don't necessarily need to do all this stuff all the time. I'm curious, too, how his trailer works. Is it his front axle that lifts? It is his front axle that lifts. That's terrible. I don't like that. I mean, might be realistic. I'm not super knowledgeable about Merit trailers, but that's a relatively long trailer to have pivoting right at the back. I would much rather the front axle be lifted, so the trailer cuts a lot tighter to follow you. So, the next order of business, where am I loading? Next door. So I guess we have cattle next door as well. So, this is the Delta Livestock Yard mod from Frankenstyle Customs, which features the yard that I'm currently in, which would be your truck yard. It has fuel, it has a repair shop. It also has next door. I gotta lower this axle. This trailer's not gonna make it around these corners. It's probably gonna take out that pole. It also features next door. I think this is technically a Sunshine Crops. I guess things low. I almost want to air it up just for now, so that I'm not, virtually dragging my bumper across the ground. So it's got a couple of different businesses. It's got a Blue Beacon truck wash across the road with, if I remember right, there's two little dudes that just kind of stand there at the front and look like they're washing air until you nose up to them, so you can, take a little picture of your truck getting washed if you wanted for your immersions. We're probably swung this too wide because it's a W9. Yep. So another big benefit, and one of the reasons why I'm using Z's engines versus the stock engines, as I say, as I fucking stall it, is that he has a much higher threshold before it stalls. So I find that in most scenarios, I can pretty much, even with a load, dump the clutch and, it'll drive. Like, I just dump the clutch there and it just pulls ahead. So it's not perfect on hills, and if you're really turning tight, right, it'll still stall. Some friends and I have spoken to SCS Software about it. They've, mentioned that they're going to start looking into the shift logic. They came and visited us in April of this year, of 2022, to record some audio for trucks, and we spent a couple of days with them talking and kind of just picked their ear about certain things. It was very interesting to understand why they could do certain things or why they couldn't do certain things. Let's get the Jakes going here. And it was definitely interesting because they, some of it is hardware based, some of it is just time or money, and a fair amount of it is that they just genuinely didn't know certain things. So, for example, when the default SES cattle trailer was first released, it was exceptionally tall. I think a lot of people have pointed out, like, it was very high. So when we sat down for dinner, we were talking about it, and that was something they genuinely didn't know, was that, 99% of cattle trailers in North America are the same height as a van trailer, right? 13.6. So those trailers, I mean, there are a few exceptions. There are some very tall trailers, but they're like very rare, unique use cases where, we don't necessarily have that in general. So they, as a response, fixed the height of the cattle pod, right? I don't know. I'm not going to say it was directly us. There's probably plenty of people pointing it out on the forums and online. But, they are still learning about how things work in North America in addition to how things work in Europe. So it was, it was very interesting to learn certain reasons why certain things were happening. It was fun to learn, about some of the stuff they've got coming down the pipe, and just to kind of play around and just meet the guys, you know what I mean? So I wonder if I dump the clutch here. Yeah, it'll roll away. Again, it's odd when sometimes it picks and chooses where the clutch is going to work. So I'm also massively overweight. This is 83,000 pounds of cattle on a spread axle. I'm over 100,000 pounds on a 2-axle trailer. So I'm outlaw trucking today, there, boys and girls. So again, the truck turns like a Kenworth. The truck feels very smooth, which is kind of an odd thing to describe feel in American Truck Simulator. Things aren't perfect with regards to real life, as far as suspension goes and things like that. The truck feels good to drive. It's very, it's got a lot of similarities to the SES W9. I much prefer the 2-pane windshield, which is much better. Oh, there we go. We'll get that. We'll get that Cummins going a little bit here once we get it on the road. But it's overall, this truck is pretty solid. Like I said, I would like to see some more customization. I definitely like to see customization more suited to other people's tastes. Again, I'm pretty content with what the truck has, because I think me and Colton are probably similar with regards to our preferences. But it'd be nice to see, more options. The rolling 389 has significantly more features and options that cover a wide gamut of different styles. So let's just get her going here. We'll let we'll crack the Jakes a little bit, lower both windows so you get the full effect. That's where it cuts out at about 900 RPM. Oh, but maybe a little less than 900. Which is pretty good, all things considered. I don't know how old the Signature Series is. I'm not super well versed in a lot of older engines, but I'm pretty sure it's an electronic engine, so it wouldn't have, it wouldn't just jake down to a stall. All right, let's hear the external. Just going to swing a left and say YOLO. So, this is it. This is it with a trailer. right? It's again, it's a good looking truck. It's a great looking truck, right? I'm on way too low of a gear here, but it's very very aesthetically pleasing, especially to me. I'm more the high rise is growing on me. I'm a big flat top fan. My last truck I owned was a flat top, which probably has something to do with it. But by and large, I think this truck is... the question of whether it's worth $70 or not, I think is going to be the tough one. I don't entirely know that right now it's worth $70. In terms of quality, absolutely. In terms of feature set, I don't think it's quite there yet. I think that Colton, again, wants to slap out another couple of updates. The difficult part with this mod is that while at the time of this filming, it is November 1st, 2022, it is still available to purchase. He has stated that he plans on cutting it off eventually, and that's going to be the end of it. So there's a fairly good chance that if you're waiting, you know, months or days or whatever, weeks, whatever, to purchase the truck, there's a good chance that it might be gone by the time, you know, he may no longer be selling it by the time you get around to buying it. So that creates the conundrum of, like, do I buy now? Do I wait it out and see if it's available later on? Do I, you know... so really it depends, right? If you're a big fan of a Flatglass W9, you want to make something that looks, you know, if you want that like kind of like a new truck that's done up retro that can look like an A model, for example, I would argue, you know, if that's your thing, if you're a big fan of Flatglass W900s, like absolutely pick it up now if you've got $70 burning a hole in your wallet. If you're just kind of a general mod enthusiast, you see the truck, you're like, oh man, that looks kind of nice, I wouldn't mind having a W9. I would then argue that there might be a few more like affordable options out there that will scratch that itch. But like that's, you know, that's pretty much the end of it. Is quality wise, I think it's worth it. Feature set wise, it's got a little ways to go, but you got to pick it up sooner rather than later because of, you know, Colton is running a kind of a limited pre-order thing. Not a pre-order, it's just a limited sales window. So really it's you know, considered to be an investment in a future truck. And again, what is here is very good, right? Like it's optimized really well. It's you know, I don't run into frame rate issues. It doesn't have, you know, millions of reflective textures that can bog down frames, right? Can destroy people that maybe have a, you know, a less powerful computer. I think it definitely hits the mark for a nice W900 that's not just, you know, the SCS with some extra stuff thrown on it, for example. And I think while I'm definitely a fan of Ruta's W900 as well, this truck, I think, is, again, maybe a little more unique, right? It could use a couple things. I'd like to see some window chops. Either the node's somewhere and I haven't found it, or there is no node. But I'm just going to park like an asshole. I don't even care. But that's it. This is the Colton Thompson Flatglass W900 with his Merit cattle pot. So I hope that was at least informative, if not entertaining. And... you guys have a good time.